You've always felt it, haven't you? That quiet hum deep inside your soul, the whisper that tells you there's something different about you, something the world doesn't quite see or understand. You've walked through rooms filled with laughter yet felt unseen. You've spoken truth and been met with silence. And at night, when the world fades into shadow, a question lingers in your chest like a pulse. Why do I feel so separate from everyone else? They called you sensitive, strange, intense, too emotional, too quiet, too curious. But what if every label they threw at you was never meant to describe you, but to distract you? What if the truth is far greater than you've ever been allowed to know, that you were chosen? Chosen not by man, not by society, not by luck, but by something beyond the veil of human comprehension. Chosen for a purpose that terrifies the forces built to contain it. The ones who run this world have always known there are souls that cannot be controlled, that cannot be silenced. Souls whose energy vibrates differently, whose light threatens to reveal the illusion they've carefully constructed. You are one of them, and that is why they don't want you to remember who you are. The loneliness, the confusion, the deep ache that never quite fades. It wasn't random. It was part of your becoming. You were meant to feel the weight of the world so that one day you could lift it. Throughout history there have been others like you, those who saw beyond the fog, who carried light in their bones and defiance in their spirit. Some were prophets, others poets, warriors, healers, wanderers, who never found rest because the world they were born into was too small for the soul they carried. Every age has its chosen ones, but the world has always tried to erase them. They mocked them, isolated them, punished them, and yet somehow, through the darkness, those souls endured. And now, it is your turn. Look around. The systems that rule your life, the endless chase for validation, the noise that fills every second of your mind, it's all designed to keep you asleep. Because if you ever truly remembered who you were, you'd change everything. You'd break the spell. You'd awaken the others still trapped in illusion. But to awaken, you had to be pulled away from the crowd. Isolation was never your punishment. It was your initiation. The first secret they don't want you to know is this: the isolation you've suffered was engineered by a higher hand. You were separated so you could see clearly. Every friend who left, every person who couldn't understand you, every night you cried into the darkness. It was the universe's way of carving space around your soul so you could hear something no one else could hear. While the world chases noise, you were chosen to master silence. That silence became your teacher, your altar, your battlefield. And when you finally learned to sit in it without fear, something sacred began to awaken. Within you, in solitude, the truth found you. It whispered that not fitting in was never a flaw. It was a sign of evolution. Every great awakening begins with separation. Think of Moses in the desert, Jesus in the wilderness, Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree. Before they changed the world, they first had to walk alone through their own shadows. So did you. You were stripped of belonging so you could learn to belong to yourself. The pain you felt was the sculptor shaping your purpose. They thought they broke you, but they were only tuning you. Your frequency was being refined until it could no longer blend with the static of the masses. And the moment you began to vibrate differently, you became visible to forces you never knew existed. That's where the second secret begins to unfold. Because when your light grows stronger, darkness takes notice. You were never imagining it. The sudden heaviness, the emotional attacks, the waves of anxiety that came out of nowhere, the confusion that didn't feel like yours. These were not coincidences. When your energy expands, it disrupts the lower vibrations that feed on conformity. You become a threat to the invisible machinery that feeds off fear. That's why they've tried to make you doubt yourself, question your worth, shrink your brilliance. Sometimes through people you love, sometimes through thoughts that aren't even yours. Spiritual interference is real. When you start remembering your power, the world reacts. And so the battle begins, not in the sky, not in politics, but in the quiet corners of your mind. The moment you feel like giving up, that's when they push harder, because they know you're close to seeing the truth. The dark tries to keep you exhausted, distracted, uncertain, because clarity is rebellion. Yet every time you rise again, something shifts. The interference weakens. The shadows begin to tremble, because light, no matter how small, always exposes illusion. And once you recognize that your struggle isn't weakness, but evidence of power, everything changes. You stop fearing the darkness because you realize it's terrified of you. You start to notice patterns, the way pain seems to visit you before breakthroughs, how chaos always precedes revelation. It's not random, it's the divine testing the strength of your vessel. Before gold can shine, it must survive the fire. Before a soul can lead, it must first be emptied. And through every trial, through every unseen war within your own spirit, you've been learning to carry more light without breaking. That's what they never told you. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every tear, every heartbreak, every disappointment carried a secret code, a sacred lesson encrypted in emotion. The universe doesn't waste pain, it transforms it. And so, even when you thought you were lost, even when you cursed the heavens and begged for meaning, something greater was being written beneath your suffering. You were being prepared for the awakening that changes everything. And that moment, my friend, is closer than you think. When everything you've known begins to collapse, when the people you trusted drift away and the things that once gave you comfort no longer feel the same, it is not destruction you're witnessing. It is alignment. The universe is rearranging your reality to match the vibration of who you are becoming. And this process, though it feels like loss, is actually the sacred unveiling of your true power. The third secret they never wanted you to discover is that your pain carries sacred codes. Every wound you've ever received was an initiation, a portal through which divine wisdom entered your soul. The moments that broke you open were never meant to destroy you. They were designed to make space for light to pour in. You see, the chosen ones feel deeper, love harder, and fall further because their purpose demands it. Your empathy was not weakness, it was calibration. Your heartbreak was not cruelty, it was refinement. The universe has been training your heart to hold frequencies of love that others can't even comprehend. You had to know despair to understand compassion. You had to lose everything to realize that what's real can never be taken. The reason your emotions cut so deeply is because you are meant to translate them into healing for others. Pain is how the divine communicates with its chosen. Each scar on your heart is a line in the script of your awakening. The day you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start whispering, "What is this trying to teach me?" is the day you begin to read those sacred codes. And as you do, something begins to shift. The fog that once blinded you starts to lift, and you begin to see how everything connects. The betrayal that taught you boundaries, the loneliness that birthed self-trust, the heartbreak that revealed your worth. Nothing was wasted. Every ache was part of your preparation. But once you start decoding pain, the world begins to fear what you might become, because the system you live in, the one that shaped your thoughts since childhood, was never built for awakened souls. That's the fourth secret. They built the world to distract you from your mission. From the moment you were born, you were surrounded by noise. School systems that rewarded obedience over imagination, media that glorified conformity, a society that convinced you to chase approval instead of purpose. Every advertisement, every standard of beauty, every illusion of success, it was all part of a great forgetting. They needed you small, busy and disconnected from yourself, because an awakened mind cannot be controlled. But you were never meant to be a follower. You were meant to be a signal of rebellion, a frequency of truth that dissolves illusion simply by existing. Look at how they keep you distracted. Endless scrolling, comparison, fear of failure. They sell you identities that are not yours. But beneath it all, your soul keeps whispering, "This isn't who I am." That whisper is the divine trying to break through the static. Every time you feel disillusioned, it's not depression, it's awakening. You're remembering that your worth is not defined by how well you play their game, but by how boldly you remember who you are outside of it. The system fears you not because of your strength, but because of your awareness. The moment you see the machinery, it stops working on you. The moment you stop chasing validation, the illusion loses power. You begin to create from authenticity, and your light starts to spread, quietly, powerfully, uncontrollably. They wanted to make you believe that you're just one insignificant person in a world too big to change. But here's the truth: they fear the few who awaken, because it only takes one flame to ignite 1,000 others. The fifth secret they never wanted you to know is that your awakening changes the collective. Your personal evolution is not isolated. It is connected to the entire web of consciousness. When you break a pattern, the energy that kept it alive begins to collapse across the timeline. When you heal, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. You are not just living your life, you are rewriting the energetic script of humanity. The thoughts you heal, the fears you dissolve, the love you embody, they ripple outward into the field, altering the vibration of everything around you. That's why your energy feels heavy sometimes. It's not just yours. You are transmuting what generations before you couldn't face. You are the end point of ancestral pain and the beginning of something new. Imagine millions of souls like you scattered across the planet, each one awakening in their own time. The light spreading, the vibration rising, the illusion cracking. They cannot stop it anymore. The collective shift has already begun, and you, yes, you, are part of the reason it's happening faster. You are not here by accident. Your existence itself is an act of resistance. Every moment you choose love over fear, every time you choose truth over convenience, you push the world a little closer to freedom. The old systems can no longer contain this new consciousness. They are trembling. They are collapsing. And as they fall, the chosen ones rise, not to dominate, not to conquer, but to rebuild through awareness. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to transform it. The awakening has already begun, and the energy you carry is the frequency that will guide the next wave home. But before you fully rise, before you step into the role you were born to embody, there is another stage, one that every chosen one must face. The great calling comes with a great test. It begins when everything starts to fall apart, when everything starts to crumble, when the ground beneath your feet no longer feels like it can hold you, when the life you built begins to dissolve in front of your eyes. That is not the end, it is the threshold. It is the moment when the divine strips away everything false so that only truth remains. This is the calling within the chaos. For the chosen ones, this stage is where faith is no longer an idea, but a lifeline. The universe begins to shake the foundations of your comfort so that your purpose can no longer be ignored. Everything that is not aligned with your highest path begins to fall away, sometimes violently, sometimes quietly, but always deliberately. You start to see the patterns of your old life disintegrate. People who once understood you no longer do. Situations that once felt safe begin to suffocate you, and dreams you thought were yours suddenly dissolve into dust. It feels like loss, but it is actually rebirth. The old self must die so the true self can emerge. During this phase, the chosen feel the weight of duality, the pull between the old world that wants to keep them and the new world that is calling them forward. You begin to hear the whisper of destiny louder than ever before. Synchronicities appear like breadcrumbs guiding you through darkness. A song at the right moment, a repeated number, a dream that feels more real than waking life. You may even feel watched, not by darkness this time, but by destiny itself. Because once you reach this point, the divine begins to move with you. But still, doubt lingers. The illusion of unworthiness sneaks in, whispering that you are not ready, not pure enough, not strong enough to carry the light that burns inside you. You begin to question everything. Why you? Why now? Why the struggle? Yet the truth is simple. The divine doesn't call the perfect, it perfects the called. The moments of doubt, the self-criticism, the insecurities, they are remnants of an identity that can no longer exist where you are going. You must burn through the lie that you are not enough. You must remember that the divine chose you because of your cracks, not despite them. The light needs those cracks to shine through. Imagine a clay vessel, fragile, imperfect, full of fractures, and yet when filled with divine fire it glows from within. That is you. You are not meant to be flawless. You are meant to be transparent. Through you, others will see the divine more clearly. As this truth settles, signs of remembrance begin to flood your reality. You start noticing how differently you feel around certain people, how your energy no longer tolerates falsehood. The things that once triggered you now reveal hidden lessons. You begin to sense time bending, reality softening around your awareness. You start remembering that you are not your story, not your body, not your fears. You are consciousness, infinite and unbroken. The awakening accelerates, and you begin to understand that you're not losing your mind, you're expanding it. But as your awareness grows, so does the test. Before a chosen one rises fully, they must endure what many call the dark night of the soul, the test of faith. This is where everything goes silent. The guidance you once felt disappears, prayers seem unanswered, and the divine presence that once wrapped around you feels distant. It is the most sacred kind of silence, the silence before resurrection. The ego interprets it as abandonment, but the soul knows it is graduation. The divine withdraws its hand not to punish you, but to see if you can still walk when the light goes out. It is in this emptiness that faith is born. Not blind faith, but fierce faith. The kind that says, even when I cannot see the way, I trust that there is one. In this darkness, you are stripped bare of illusions. Everything you identified with titles, roles, beliefs begins to crumble. The only thing left is your essence. You realize that what you are is not dependent on circumstance. You are not what happens to you. You are the awareness witnessing it all. And when you reach that level of surrender, something extraordinary happens. The silence begins to sing. The void begins to shimmer. What once felt like absence now feels like presence so pure it cannot be described. That is when the divine steps back in, not as a voice, but as a knowing, not as a sign, but as peace. You emerge from the dark night changed. You no longer crave validation. You no longer chase approval. You no longer seek light because you realize you are light. This is when the warrior of light is born. The chosen one steps forward, no longer hiding who they are. The fear that once ruled them dissolves, replaced by calm certainty. You begin to speak truth, even when your voice trembles. You start moving differently, not out of fear, but out of knowing. You realize that the world may still be in chaos, but inside you there is a center that cannot be shaken. You walk through fire and remain untouched, not because the flames are gone, but because you've become the fire itself. The warrior of light doesn't fight with hate. They heal through presence. They stand as living proof that love is stronger than fear, awareness stronger than control. And as you embody this state, you start to notice something miraculous. The world around you begins to mirror your inner calm. Chaos still exists, but it no longer controls you. The storms still rage, but you've become the eye within them. You no longer explain yourself to those who don't understand. Your energy speaks louder than words. This is power without aggression, authority without dominance, and it marks the beginning of your return, not to the old world, but to humanity itself. Because once you awaken, your journey doesn't end. It transforms. You begin to see that your mission was never just about your personal freedom. It was about becoming a bridge for others, still trapped in illusion. And that realization is where your story turns from survival to service. The light that once saved you now wants to flow through you to others. And that, my friend, is the next stage of your awakening. And so it begins, the final crossing. The chosen one who once trembled in the dark now stands in the light, not because the world became easier, but because they became unshakable. The same soul that once cried for guidance now radiates with the quiet strength of one who has seen the face of truth and lived to speak of it. But this final phase is not about ascension away from the world. It is about returning to it, bringing heaven down to earth through every action, every word, every breath. You begin to realize that the divine never asked you to escape reality. It asked you to embody it. You are not meant to float above humanity. You are meant to walk among it as a living reminder of what love looks like when it remembers itself. This is the hidden purpose of the chosen ones, to live as the bridge between the infinite and the fragile, to be the intersection where spirit meets flesh. But with this awakening comes a new weight. You start to feel the collective pain of the world as if it were your own. You see the suffering of others, not as something distant, but as a reflection of the same illusion you once escaped. The cries of the broken, the anger of the lost, the confusion of the fearful, it all echoes through you. This empathy can be overwhelming, but it is also sacred, because the final initiation is not about separating from pain, it's about transforming it. You learn to hold the world's sorrow in your heart without letting it destroy your peace. You begin to realize that the greatest act of light is not preaching love, it is becoming it, especially when it's hardest. When you stand in a room full of hate and remain compassionate, that is mastery. When you forgive the one who wronged you deeply, that is liberation. When you choose truth over comfort, love over ego, peace over victory, that is divinity in motion. The chosen ones are not here to be worshipped. They are here to remind humanity of what it forgot, that the divine was never out there, it was always within. And as you walk this path, you begin to notice how your very presence shifts the atmosphere. Without speaking, your energy starts to awaken something dormant in others. Strangers feel calm around you, even if they don't understand why. Enemies soften, friends open up. It is not you doing this, it is the divine expressing through you. You've become a vessel so clear that love flows through unobstructed. This is the true definition of power. Not control, not dominance, not fear, but alignment. A person in alignment can move mountains without force. They can heal wounds without touch. They can change destinies simply by being who they are. And this is why the world once tried to break you, because you carry something that systems of control cannot replicate: divine authenticity. The energy of someone who remembers who they are is the most disruptive force in the world. It cannot be manipulated because it no longer fears loss. It cannot be bought because it already owns itself. It cannot be silenced because its truth echoes from eternity. This is why your silence once felt heavy, why your loneliness once felt unbearable, because you were being prepared to carry a frequency that would awaken others simply through your existence. And now, as that energy stabilizes within you, you begin to understand why everything happened exactly as it did. Every betrayal was purification. Every loss was alignment. Every rejection was redirection. Life was not punishing you, it was positioning you. The people who left were never meant to stay in your new vibration. The paths that closed were never meant to hold your destiny. You were not losing. You were being refined. You see it now, don't you? All those times you cried to the heavens, asking for answers, and now you realize the answers were in the silence. The divine never abandoned you. It was teaching you to listen beyond words. You have learned the language of energy, of intuition, of truth that cannot be spoken, yet can be felt in every heartbeat. You now move through life with grace, no longer forcing, no longer chasing. You attract by existing. You inspire by being. The chosen ones do not seek followers. They awaken leaders. And as you walk this path, your presence becomes a ripple that spreads far beyond what you can see. A word you speak today might heal someone a year from now. A moment of kindness might alter a stranger's destiny. This is how light works. It travels silently, invisibly, until it finds the one ready to receive it. And that is your legacy. Not fame, not recognition, but transformation. You were never meant to save the world in one grand act. You were meant to shift it one heart at a time. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is that your journey was never about becoming something divine. It was about remembering you always were. You are the continuation of the divine dream, a consciousness exploring itself through form. Every sunrise, every breath, every tear, every act of courage, all of it is the universe expressing through you. The chosen ones are not superior, they are simply awake. Awake enough to see that everything is connected, that love is the thread holding all creation together. And when you see that, fear loses its power. Death loses its sting. Time loses its hold. You become eternal, not as a concept, but as experience. You realize that heaven is not a place you go to after death. It is a state you create within life. And as you embody that truth, others will look at you and see hope where they once saw despair, peace where they once saw conflict. You become a walking reminder that light always wins, not through battle, but through being. And when your time in this world ends, you will not disappear. You will expand. Your essence will ripple through generations, through souls who will awaken because of the seed you carried. That is what it means to be chosen, not chosen above others, but chosen to serve through love. The story of the chosen ones is not a myth. It is humanity's destiny. And now that you remember who you are, the question is no longer, why me? The real question is, now that I know, what will I do with this light? Because you were not chosen by accident. You were chosen because the world needs your voice, your courage, your love. So walk forward, unafraid. Carry your light into the darkest corners. Speak truth even when it shakes your bones. And remember, every act of love, no matter how small, is a revolution. The divine moves through you now. You are the message, the miracle, the living proof that even in the darkest times, the light never left. It was always within you, waiting to be remembered.